Hello class, this is Mrs. Johnson and I have this book here called, even though the letters are backwards here on the video, but you can tell it's the book that you also have in front of you, and it's called Deserts, Animals, People, and Plants. And I'm going to make this video so you can see me read it to you, and I want you to follow along. And we're not going to read every single page of it, so I want you to pay attention to where I am reading and follow along, and then I'll direct you to where you need to go. Okay? So let's start turning to page number 4. Let me show you the picture. Again, even though it looks a little bit funny for you, but that's the picture, the page where I want you to be, that picture of the desert. Okay. There are places where rain hardly ever falls and few plants can survive, where the sun scorches the earth and strong winds whip sand and dust from the ground. These places are called deserts, but not all deserts are areas of shifting sands and intense heat. In fact, rock and gravel cover the greater part of most deserts. Some deserts, such as the Gobi Desert in Asia, are actually cold for most of the year. Other deserts are blisteringly hot during the day, but temperatures drop dramatically during the night. Now, I want you to stop there, and we're going to turn to page number 8. I will show you. We're going to be learning now about plants in the desert. And there's a picture there of a very high cactus. So follow along as I read to you page 8. And we're going to start on the top, on the column on the right at the top. It is astonishing that any plants have learned to survive in desert conditions. Most plants rely on regular rainfall, but desert plants may have to go without fresh water for more than a year. In addition, many desert plants have to cope with both hot and cold temperatures, as each boiling day turns into another freezing night. Some desert plants remain hidden in the ground. Let me say that again. Some desert plants remain hidden in the ground as seeds until rain falls. By waiting until conditions are good, they do not have to cope with the rigors of desert life. And now if you go to page 9, which I will show you in a minute, I really would like us to read together some survival tricks that plants have to survive in the desert. And this is the pictures, the 3 pictures we're going to be focusing on. What do plants do to survive in the desert? Now, if you follow along with me, it says that some desert trees have long tap roots which grow deep into the ground to reach underground water sources. Now we go to the middle picture and you look at that and you say, desert plants have special ways of surviving without regular rainfall. Some suck up as much water as they can during occasional rains and then store it in their stems or leaves. Here are some other ways desert plants collect and conserve water. So you saw about the taproots, and this middle picture says that many plants, like the creosote bush, have a vast network of shallow roots to extract every available drop of moisture from their patch of the desert. So let me make sure we're understanding what we're reading. Here were the taproots long into the ground to reach any water. And then here, what we just read is that they have a vast network that expands out looking for moisture. And now let's read about another trick that plants have to get water. Some desert plants store food and water underground in thickened roots, bulbs, or tubers. The stems of such plants exposed to sun and wind may look dead, but as soon as it rains, they spring into life, producing leaves, fruits, and flowers. So we read about desert plants and some of the tricks they have. Let's find out now about animals. And I want you to go to page 10 of the book. Look at the pictures there. There are snakes and lizards and a scorpion on the top. And we're going to learn about how animals adapt in the desert. It is difficult to believe that hundreds of different animals live in deserts. Most of the time, these are quiet, still places. This is because many desert creatures move around only at dawn or dusk. At other times of the day, they burrow underground or hide beneath rocks or plants to avoid being hot or cold, to avoid very hot or cold conditions. The animals living in the desert rely on plant life and on each other for their survival. Roots, stems, leaves, and seeds form the basic diet of many desert creatures, and they in turn are hunted by other animals. The largest hunters in the desert include wildcats, foxes, and wolves. Some desert creatures get all the water they need from the food they eat. Others have to travel long distances to visit rare water holes. Okay, and on our station about the animals, you learn a lot about some animals and what they do during the day and the night and how they survive. Now, there's a very interesting page in this book that I want us to read together. If you turn to page 14, there's that picture of lightning on the other page. It's going to tell us what happens in the desert when water falls, because sometimes there are big storms in the desert. So let's read together at the top of the page. Some deserts have regular rainy seasons, but others may not see rain for many years. In the desert, there are only torrential downpours. This means that usually when it rains really hard. Violent desert rainstorms cause flash floods and destruction. Plants are washed away and some animals drown. Rain brings life as well as death to desert lands. Days after a heavy storm, billions of tiny seeds spring to life on the desert floor. These small flowering plants, called ephemerals, have been hiding in the sand since the last rainfall. Millions of insect eggs are also brought to life by the drumming rain, and so an army of flies, bees, and wasps appears. These insects feed on the ephemerals and help them to reproduce by spreading pollen from flower to flower. 8 weeks after the rain, the desert is empty again. The colorful flowers and buzzing insects have gone, but millions and billions of new seeds and eggs now lay hidden in the desert sands. Many of them will be eaten by permanent desert dwellers, but some are bound to survive until the next rain comes and the life cycle can be repeated. And we're going to talk about this in our instructional conversation center. This phenomenon that happens in the desert, how non-living things like rain can affect so many living things, like animals and plants. Now, there's one more page, our last page that we're going to read in the book. It's about how people adapt in the desert, because there are some groups of people that live in the desert. So if you turn to page 16, this is what it looks like. It's a picture of a man there. And let's learn how people live in the desert. The desert is a dangerous place for people not used to its hostile conditions. Even so, a few people call the open desert home. The Bushmen of the Kalahari Desert in southern Africa are nomads, which means that they travel from place to place. Bushmen survive by hunting wild game and gathering edible plants and insects. Some Aborigines once lived this way in the heart of Australia's desert lands, but most are now settled in government-funded camps. So, people in the desert usually move from one place to another. We stopped reading there, and I was just telling you that people in the desert usually move from one place to another. But I want you to look at this fun people facts text box that is here. And we're going to finish with this. As you can see, there's a man with a turban on his head. And this is a way to protect them from the heat and from the hard sun. There's a picture of a bushman in the middle, and it says the bushmen rarely drink. They get most of the water they need from plant roots and desert melons found on or under the desert floor. And he's actually biting on a root there. And then those funny houses that look like igloos are houses from the Gobi Desert. They're round, sturdy huts called yurts. And these simple homes can withstand winds up to 90 miles per hour. So we are done with our book. And I hope you like listening to me read to you, and also you reading along about how animals, plants, and people live in the desert.